I'm a history buff. So to be honest, I think there's always some analogies to be drawn from history to the present. And I do like to look into some of the historical patterns.
Welcome to a super special episode. I say it all the time, but this one is gonna be special because I'm welcoming Mani to the TBT.
Thank you so much, Steve. Great to be here.
What you don't know though is this is gonna be episode 300.
300. That's a milestone.
That's a milestone, and I just say good for you. But before we get into that, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Mani. I work at SAP, and I'm the chiefest officer, how they call it, of the Business Transformation Management Unit, which encompasses Signavio, LeanIX, and Block.
They get 300.
One against me, and it's a big number, isn't it? Well, it reminds me of a movie.
Yes, exactly. You got it. Yes, thank you. So, think back, I don't know, 2,400, 2,500 years ago.
Yeah, I was pretty young back then, but yeah, that's a long time. But I think wasn't the movie all about the fight between the Persians and the ancient Greeks, and Sparta came with Leonidas as their leader, and the Persians, they had Xerxes as their king. And that war was an interesting one, right?
I love the movie, and this is the thing I set up because I do know that you do know a little bit of that particular history.
So I'm a history buff. So to be honest, I think there's always some analogies to be drawn from history to the present. And I do like to look into some of the historical patterns. But when you talk about the movie is not 100% accurate, right? I like the movie too. I watched it, but it kind of depicts the leadership principles, to say a little bit business lingo. I think slightly the wrong way.
Tell me a little bit more. I think this is a very interesting topic. Obviously, all this are there for entertainment, but it also becomes a little bit of a new zeitgeist truth for some people who don't know history.
I think if you ask people who saw the movie, the 300, which basically displays the strong leadership of Leonidas, the Greek leader, the leader of Sparta, actually, it looks like as if he goes all in. He takes risk beyond what makes sense from a calculated risk-taking perspective. If you would write about him as a business case study, I would probably say he went beyond action, right? So, for those of you who have not seen the movie, it's basically the 300 get defeated. So the Persians, they try to conquer parts of the Peloponnese, and they're like coming with 10,000 of people in their army. And there's the Greek army, which consists of various different tribes, and one of them are the Spartans. They know to be like the most vigorous fighters. And they're just not accepting defeat, right? There are 300 of them, and they fight until the last man falls. So not only Leonidas with its leadership is exemplifying a lot of strength and willingness to fight, in hindsight, he basically erases the entire 300 from the surface of the planet by not basically giving in, because the end result is the same. The Persians make it to the corridors, and they actually get into the empire. And only in the next war, which then was the third large war between those two countries or regions, the Greeks then finally would go for, and we know that history they also invade the Persian Empire. But if you take the historical analogy of how people look at it when they only have seen the movie, they see a glorified leader and took outsized risk that is being displayed as the one who kind of rightfully took the respect. I would say that's not entirely true of you. But at their sort of times,
I think you really got the good points, because when they also look at some leaders and they really work very hard, they don't sleep, and glorify that. It's the same thing like in the movie. I think they were depicted of obviously wearing armor, like breastplates and nothing. What I think probably is historically accurate as well, right?
Yeah, look, I think it comes really down to a few factors that are probably very, very current themes that we all see in business. And so number one is, do I have the right data? Like if I know kind of the the size of the threat, if I kind of know exactly what my options are, if I kind of do a what-if analysis, if I know exactly my as-is risk, I would probably come to a more kind of fact-based, less gut feel or more conviction-based judging of the situation. And number two, and you get the right point, is HEAP, which for me is just another word for leadership. I mean, it admittedly, that leadership was able to have followership to an extent that we don't see these days anymore, right? Like basically the entire tribe full into this. Very heroic, and probably one of the best examples of strong leadership was to generate that type of followership. But again, to take a step back, isn't it also the purpose of leadership to kind of de-risk and make sure you actually choose options wisely and don't just kind of follow your gut feeling? And I think that's one of the analogies that I draw out on the Leonidas of the tree on the big snow.
You're absolutely right. I mean, some of the leaders that think they have to be this hero, a video marcher, but then they actually bring everyone to their demise. I don't think, I mean, at least you could say, yeah, the purpose or the value of the purpose, it's a little bit questionable, getting everyone.
But let me give you a positive. I think the end of the story is that movie generated so much positive narrative around the Spartanian heroic tribe that they were, and Leonidas as a person. I even saw some numbers that people started naming their sons Leonidas, and like it's you can see like a little spike of the name, even around that year when the movie came out. So it's something that has, despite its historical inaccuracies that they tried to depict here, has led to a very positive PR triumph, if you like, right? For not only the movie makers who made a lot of cash out of the movie, I guess, but also for the, I would say, for the tribe of the ancient Greeks, as in the Spartanians in particular.
There's a little bit about the depictions in the movie on the quotes and quotes, the antagonists, the Persians. The thing is, like, I feel it's, on one hand, we probably know it wasn't just 300 versus what I'm calling the 50,000 or something like that in the movie. Why do you think that we always need to depict as like the black and white and the good versus evil? Because when we look at it on, it's oh, I did it, but honestly, I think that the application is not
Something else, I think. Yeah. Okay. I think in that particular situation, it was, I think Texas was the leader of the, back then it was called Persians, sort of the Archimedes, that were running the empire of Archimedes. So, Texas was their number one leader. The Greek tribes were multiple tribes. There were like dozens of them, and Spartanians were one of them. From a leadership perspective, what's quite interesting is the leader of the Spartanians, Leonidas, he activated a lot of other tribes that were not really related to him, but let's say they were the ones who would have been run over first by the Persians. So he had a couple of hundred people joining from this tribe, a couple of thousand joining from this tribe. So if you add up the data, which I think we always also have to do with business, you very quickly get from the 300, the core, to a supporting system that he was able to accumulate around him. And that was then ultimately probably like, the story can say like, oh, more like 10,000 people fighting against something between like, 40, 50,000 Persians on the other side. So that makes the picture look a little bit different than if you think about purely those 300 are just on their own fighting this heroic fight. So even the numbers perspective, the data stack, and when you do the kind of Mythbuster based on what has been counted in mass graves, and I think like they basically counted how many goals they found, like the analysis on it, and they kind of come to that conclusion. It must have been like proportionally about a 1-to-5 ratio, and not like a 1-to, say, I felt like 5.3,000. It's that big.
I don't know if you're totally into the details of it, but do you know anything about, let's say, the tactics of a strategy? What was actually the end game for Leonidas? Did that kind of situation? Did he just want to slow it down? Did he know he's gonna die? Or what do you think was his motivation there?
I mean, I would have loved to talk to him. Like one of the people I would have loved to talk to is probably those two protagonists to kind of figure out what was going on in Xerxes' head and in Leonidas' head. And what's interesting is there were a couple of offers from the from the king of the Persian Empire to Leonidas, because I think he had actually a lot of respect for him. So during that war, he sent a couple of times messages to the other side for eventually giving him the power over the entire Greek empire. Like, you become my side and you're going to have a beautiful life. Basically, it was trying to show him the prospect of things. What would be good for him if he kind of joins the Persian Empire. And Leonidas was very strict. He also did politely decline to basically kill the messenger. So every time there was a message coming, he killed the messengers and basically signaled very clearly that he's not interested in any middle-of-the-road auction or any negotiation of that matter. So in that case, I would say, and this is maybe also a lesson from a business standpoint, he was clearly drawing the line at the set. I'm not going to negotiate this. It's my standpoint. I'm going to defend this country or my tribe as for whatever it takes. And I have everyone behind me to do it the way that I set it out to do, which is fight until the last man. And I think this is interesting because if your life is threatened, you would probably at some point be receptive if you do the risk analysis and you figure out there is very little options for you to kind of survive, and there's a very likely outcome of this war that's going to be this. How do you kind of build a compromise? Now, going back to today's day and age, not only in business, we are in a situation with a lot of geopolitical tensions. We even have a war going on in Europe. I think it's interesting to see that strongholders and not giving up is something that we also see right now in Europe, which I don't want to judge it as good or bad, but it's something that we can see in history has sometimes proven to be extremely positive in terms of the long-term outcome. And sometimes it has just led to defeat and unnecessary high casualties on the battleground. So it's a fine line to walk. But it's interesting from a personality standpoint that despite all the kind of, I call it camouflage peace offers, there were pushbacks that were relatively good that day and age.